Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. The case of Sabrina Quieter, a horrific crime in an upscale London neighborhood. Compulsive thoughts are a mental disorder characterized by the occurrence of ideas and actions that occur against a person's will, and from which they cannot free themselves. In some severe cases, these thoughts can literally take over the mind, and when combined with a complex manipulative nature, innate cruelty, and a manic desire for dominance, it creates a time bomb. British Sabrina Quieter had every chance of achieving the fabulous, rich, and carefree life she dreamed of from an early age, but it was never enough for her. No partner was good enough for her, and she constantly felt like she was born for fame, attention, and luxury. Her unrealized ambitions and obsessive fantasies eventually escalated into delusions with bouts of violence. Unfortunately, Sabrina found a defenseless man on whom she vented all her anger. This case became one of the most heinous and high-profile in British history. An innocent girl who cared for her children became the victim of a deranged sadist. Sabrina Quieter. Early years. Sabrina Quieter, born on December 5, 1982, in a London suburb, had a distinctive blend of French and Algerian heritage from her parents. This unique mix likely contributed to her striking appearance and fiery temperament. The eldest of 4 children, Sabrina was the darling of her family, constantly praised and set as a model for others. At the age of 2, her family emigrated to France, settling in Paris, where she spent most of her childhood and youth. Sabrina's complex character began to manifest in her school years. Her former classmates later recalled that she was arrogant, domineering, self-absorbed, and extremely selfish. She had few friends, either at school or among her neighborhood peers, considering everyone around her unworthy of her time. To other bright, outgoing girls, she was particularly hostile, viewing them as competitors and enemies. With her stunning looks, a striking brunette with brown eyes and an impressive figure, Sabrina could have pursued a career in modeling if she had the ability to connect with others, rather than just seeking to manipulate them. As a child, she was active in sports and showed some interest in music during her youth, but her inconsistency, impatience for quick results, and lack of effort hindered her success in any field. Years later, Sabrina claimed she experienced harsh treatment from her maternal relatives in France during her early years. However, these claims were never substantiated or proven. Contrarily, her family insisted that she was indulged and always sought attention. As a teenager, while active in sports, Sabrina suffered a back injury, leading to a dependence on prescription painkillers. She tried to obtain these drugs illegally, leading to her arrest and a police warning. Sabrina was always intensely focused on herself and her appearance, craving constant attention. She had no doubt that her future held a wealthy, glamorous life filled with celebrity interactions and her own stardom. Sometimes it seemed her fantasies clouded her reality as she believed her rightful place was in Hollywood. Sabrina graduated from the Sorbonne with a degree in English and French literature. However, since 2006, she claimed various fashion industry professions such as stylist, makeup artist, fashion designer, or designer, though she lacked real expertise in these areas. Complex relationship with Wissem Madouni. Sabrina Quieter, known for her stunning looks, had a penchant for captivating men and exploiting their affection, but she never saw any of her suitors as worthy of a serious relationship. She was literally waiting for a prince who would completely obey her. After finishing school, Sabrina was still unclear about her life goals, feeling entitled to everything without effort. Nevertheless, she enrolled at the prestigious Sorbonne University and simultaneously worked at a sweet shop for financial support. It was there, at the age of 18, that she met Wissem Madouni. Madouni, 6 years her senior, was a manager at a major French company's head office and studied at one of Paris's most prestigious universities. He aspired to a master's degree for career advancement. Despite not being particularly handsome, part of elite clubs, or in the celebrity circle, he fell deeply in love with Sabrina and was willing to fulfill all her whims and fancies. Sabrina, too, found Madouni appealing, seeing him as someone she could manipulate yet also as a ticket to a wealthy life. He was ambitious and capable of great career success and was ready to pamper and spoil her. The couple began dating in 2000, and within a few months, decided to move in together. Sabrina quickly revealed her true nature, striving to control Maduni in every aspect. If her demands were not met, she resorted to tantrums, manipulations, and even physical violence. Moreover, she soon started openly cheating on Maduni, not bothering to hide it or justify her actions. She could engage in flings with anyone, from a random acquaintance to Maduni's best friend or colleague. Despite several attempts to end the relationship and leaving her, Maduni always returned, unable to break free from his deep love for Sabrina. In 2001, Maduni achieved his master's degree and a significant promotion. He began earning a substantial income, which he spent lavishly on Sabrina's luxurious clothing and entertainment. His family owned several properties in Paris, and he managed them, giving all the rental income to Sabrina. Maduni, who also had Franco-Algerian roots, saw a kindred spirit in Sabrina. According to some reports, in the fall of 2001, the couple married in a special Muslim ceremony, evidenced by a certificate issued by the Argenteuil Mosque. However, this religious ceremony was insufficient to make the union official and legal. The couple had a son, whose paternity Maduni officially recognized. However, years later, a Frenchman named Anthony Francois claimed he was the child's father. Francois, a witness in Quitter's trial, described her as volatile, unpredictable, promiscuous, and manipulative. Relocation to London. In 2008, the global financial crisis hit hard, leading to the bankruptcy of the company where Wissem Maduni worked, resulting in the loss of his high-paying job. It was around this time that Sabrina Quitter developed a fixation on moving to London. She made the move without much consultation with her partner. Left with little choice and hoping for a new career start in one of the world's major financial hubs, Maduni followed her to London. Once in London, Maduni found employment in a major English bank. However, Sabrina struggled to find her footing in the fashion industry. Her aspirations to become a designer, model, or makeup artist were hindered by a lack of skills, experience, and formal education in these fields. Consequently, she had to lower her expectations. Over time, she worked in various capacities, including as a nanny, in a call center, a cafe, and even tried her hand at network marketing. Romance with Mark Walton. Sabrina Quitter's quest for love took a turn when she rekindled her teenage passion for music, adding the titles of musician and composer to her resume. Despite her enthusiasm, Sabrina struggled to find professional opportunities in the music industry. She attended numerous auditions and social events, hoping to make valuable connections. At one of these events, Sabrina fortuitously met Mark Walton, a renowned musician, songwriter, and one of the founding members of the famous Irish boy band, Boyzone. After leaving the group, Mark became a successful producer and music mogul, collaborating with artists like Jennifer Lopez, Jessica Simpson, and Lady Gaga. By 2016, his net worth had exceeded $1 billion. Mark was precisely the kind of person Sabrina had dreamt of meeting, her ticket to a world of fame and luxury. She managed to impress Mark with her beauty and charisma. He was captivated by her and openly admitted falling in love at first sight, unable to think of anyone but the stunning woman. Their relationship progressed rapidly, and Sabrina made efforts to remain pleasant and endearing, quickly ending her relationship with Maduni as she saw a promising future with Mark. His previous relationship and child were no deterrent for her. Within weeks, the lovers moved in together, residing in a luxurious house in an upscale area of London. Mark took on all the expenses, including the rent for the lavish house chosen by Sabrina. For several months, Sabrina lived the opulent life she had long aspired to, socializing with celebrities, attending elite events, wearing couture clothing, and even appearing in glossy magazines. However, managing Mark proved challenging for Sabrina, as she feared losing him. She couldn't control her nature for long and soon began to show jealousy towards every woman around Mark. Sabrina's demands increased over time, seeking more gifts and luxury. Mark indulged her with designer clothes, jewelry, and outings to high-end restaurants and clubs, but it was never enough for her. The couple's home had a high turnover of staff and nannies, as Sabrina's paranoia led her to believe they were either stealing or attempting to seduce Mark. Her irrational behavior eventually drove Mark to his breaking point. In 2011, he ended the relationship and left for California, leaving Sabrina with nothing. Losing Mark also meant losing the lavish lifestyle she had enjoyed. Sabrina started giving interviews, accusing Mark of cruelty, violence, and substance abuse. She called him, crying, begging him to return, and even threatened to take her own life. But none of these tactics brought him back. Who is the father of the second child? After realizing she had lost Mark Walton, Sabrina Kuiter reached out to her ex-partner, Wissem Medouni. Medouni, whose career was flourishing as a bank executive, immediately forgave and accepted her back, still harboring feelings for her. They resumed living together. Shortly after reuniting with Medouni, Sabrina discovered she was pregnant. She quickly informed Walton, who, through his lawyers, expressed willingness to provide for the child and Sabrina, offering a monthly allowance. However, Walton insisted on a paternity test post-delivery to confirm his fatherhood. Sabrina's refusal to undergo the test, which could have secured her substantial regular payments, hinted at her uncertainty about the child's paternity. Instead of agreeing to the test, she demanded Walton double the proposed allowance. Upon his refusal, she declared war on the musician. Sabrina took to social media, spreading false claims that Walton was obsessed with her, insanely jealous of Medouni, and was physically threatening them. She accused Walton of breaking into their home, assaulting Medouni, scaring the children, and sexually assaulting her in unnatural ways. However, she couldn't substantiate her claims, as Walton had a solid alibi, being in the United States since their breakup. After Walton filed a defamation lawsuit and the police threatened action against her, Sabrina temporarily ceased her accusations against the ex-boyfriend. She settled in Wimbledon, southwest London, with Medouni and their 2 children, leading a seemingly quiet life as the conflict appeared to be resolved. French nanny Sabrina Kuiter, unaccustomed to managing household chores and finding it challenging to handle 2 children, decided to hire a nanny who could also assist with housework. She posted a job advertisement online and personally conducted interviews. Most candidates did not meet her expectations, and those who did not stay long in her household. A young French woman named Sophie Lyonnais responded to the advertisement. At the time, 19-year-old Sophie was in her provincial hometown in France, so the interview was conducted via video call. This modest, unassuming provincial agreed to all terms: childcare, household help, and cooking for a symbolic weekly pay of 50 British pounds, including full board and lodging with the employer. Sophie was born on January 7, 1996, in the small town of Troyes, situated between Auxerre and Sens. Her parents, Catherine and Patrick Lyonnais, were simple workers, leading a modest, if not poor, lifestyle. After finishing school, Sophie obtained a diploma in childcare but did not wish to work in her province, aspiring instead to move to a big city. Known for being shy, quiet, and plain in appearance, but very kind and open-hearted, Sophie was loved by those who knew her. Due to poor vision, she wore glasses, which she was somewhat self-conscious about. During their conversation, Kuiter realized that Sophie, the plain Jane, would be an ideal target for her manipulations. Moreover, Sophie was eager to gain experience and good references, thus willing to work for minimal wages. To Sophie, Sabrina seemed like a serious and reliable employer, a fact she shared with her parents before departing for London. As kind employers turned into sophisticated sadists. Initially, things seemed to go well for Sophie Lyonnais, who naively believed that working for the Kuiters would be an excellent start to her nanny career. She quickly bonded with the children, managed household chores as per her contract, and had enough time and resources to improve her English and explore city attractions. This peaceful period lasted several months, and all seemed well. Problems began when Medouni lost his job, and the family's only stable income became the monthly child support payments from Walton. Sabrina again demanded increased payments from Walton, who in turn requested a DNA test to confirm his paternity. The family faced serious financial issues, struggling with expensive rent and basic living expenses. Sabrina, unwilling to cut back on her luxuries and desperate to maintain her socialite lifestyle, became irritable and aggressive, often taking out her anger on the young nanny. The couple attempted to start a bakery business with their last funds, but it failed. Sabrina then turned to Walton, asking for a substantial amount of money to launch her clothing line, only to be met with a categorical refusal, leading to tears and complaints about poverty. Sabrina frequently complained to Lionette about her ex-lover, and the nanny tried to console her employer. What happened next varies depending on the source. According to one version, Kuiter conceived a plan to use Sophie as a weapon for blackmailing Walton. She intended to portray Sophie as Walton's accomplice and lover, supposedly planted in their home to disrupt their lives and endanger the children. Sabrina claimed that the provincial fool was in love with Walton, who used her as a tool for revenge. She believed that recording the nanny's confessions on tape or video and presenting them to the police would be sufficient evidence to demand compensation from Walton for his heinous act. However, Sophie refused to give false statements on camera. Another version, as argued by Kuiter's lawyers in court, suggested that due to her mental disorder, Sabrina genuinely believed in her conspiracy theory and saw Sophie as an enemy and a threat to her family. She allegedly didn't force the nanny to give false testimony, but truly believed Sophie was Walton's accomplice, infiltrated into their household to harm them. Regardless of the truth, Sophie's life soon turned into a living nightmare. Torture chamber in the basement of a wealthy home. Initially, young Frenchwoman Sophie Lyonnais was burdened with extra work without a corresponding increase in her meager salary. Eventually, she was engaged in endless chores from dawn till late night, with no personal time and effectively imprisoned within the house walls. Sophie's pay was soon halted entirely, and to prevent her escape or return to France, her employers confiscated her passport, making her a captive. Her communication with family was strictly monitored. The situation worsened. Sophie was barely fed and constantly pressured to give false statements against Walton, whom she had never met or known. She was communicated with solely through screams, insults, and threats. Accused of stealing money and valuables, she was threatened with imprisonment if she failed to comply with their demands against the musician. When screaming and blackmail proved ineffective, the Kuiters resorted to more brutal and sophisticated methods. Sophie was effectively relocated to a cold basement, where she spent all her time when not working. Fed scantily once or twice a day, she became emaciated and weak. However, the cold and hunger were not the worst she endured. Physical abuse became the most torturous stage. It started with slaps and hair pulling, but escalated when Sabrina broke Sophie's nose in a violent assault. The sight of blood seemingly unleashed Sabrina's fury, turning beatings into a daily ordeal for Sophie. Each day brought new methods of cruelty designed to inflict unbearable pain and suffering. The basement of this wealthy house in an affluent London area turned into a real torture chamber for Lionette, with no hope of rescue. Strange visit to the police station. In late summer 2017, Sabrina Kuiter brought the unfortunate Sophie Lionette to a police station, claiming that Sophie was ready to testify against Mark Walton, with whom she allegedly had a romantic and criminal relationship, and who had supposedly sent her to their house to abuse the children. However, Sophie remained silent, refusing to say what Sabrina demanded. The police decided to speak with Sophie privately and took her to a separate room. Sabrina was furious, fearing that Sophie would reveal the horrors happening at their home and implicate her and her husband. Mysteriously, Sophie chose not to disclose anything or seek help. The police's response was also peculiar. Despite seeing a malnourished, frightened, and weakened young woman, they did not call a doctor or a psychologist to ensure her well-being and safety. At that point, the 21-year-old nanny weighed less than 40 kilograms, had partially lost her hair, was missing a front tooth, and was noticeably limping. Yet none of this raised any concern with the officers, who simply let everyone go home. Disturbing phone call and a funeral pyre. In mid-September, Sophie Lyonnais made her final call to her mother. Sobbing, Sophie confessed to her mother that she wanted to return home but had no money. Catherine, without delving into details, simply told her daughter that she would buy her a ticket and asked her to pack her bags immediately. This was the last time she would hear Sophie's voice. A few days later, on September 20th, 2017, in the evening, the Kuiter's neighbors called the police. They were alarmed by a fire in the yard, not so much by the fire itself, but by the nauseating, sweetly greasy smell emanating from it. A neighbor said he immediately realized it smelled like burning flesh and hair, along with something unidentifiable, and the thick smoke that stretched half a block instantly impregnated clothes and skin with this stench. Firefighters and a police car arrived at the scene. The house owners, appearing calm and seemingly unaware of the reason for the emergency services visit, met them. After extinguishing the fire, what looked like a charred human hand was discovered in the ashes. The couple was immediately taken into custody, and severely burnt human remains were extracted from the fire. The gender and age of the deceased were indeterminable, but soon the body was identified as Sophie Leonet's, recognized by the melted metal frame of the glasses embedded in the skull, which Sophie always wore. Cause of death. Determining the cause of Sophie Leonet's death was challenging, as her body was almost entirely destroyed by fire. Forensic experts found multiple rib fractures, jaw cracks, and evidence of blunt force trauma on her skull and limbs, indicating she had suffered these injuries while still alive. Additionally, several of her teeth were missing, and her nose was severely damaged. It became clear that Sophie had endured prolonged and brutal beatings, resulting in broken bones and knocked-out teeth. However, assessing the state of her internal organs and identifying any penetrating wounds was impossible due to the extent of the fire damage. The discovery of horrific video recordings in the house, showing Sophie being tortured and coerced into confessing collusion with Walton and intent to harm the children, revealed the true sadistic nature of her captors. Sophie was beaten with fists, an iron cord, a golf club, and even subjected to electric shock torture. She also endured humiliations, such as being forced to submerge her head in a toilet until she began to suffocate. According to experts, Sophie likely died from asphyxiation before being burned on the pyre, sparing her from the agony of being alive during the burning. Trial and sentence. Sabrina Kuiter and Wissem Medouni denied guilt and displayed no remorse for their brutal crime. After the murder, Medouni calmly went to a nearby supermarket to buy firelighter fluid for burning the body and dinner for his family, behaving as if nothing unusual had happened. The first court hearings against the sadistic couple began in March 2018. Sabrina tried to portray herself as a victim, blaming Mark Walton for driving her to a pathological state with his relentless torment. Medical examinations confirmed Sabrina had mental disorders but was not insane and could comprehend her actions. Wissem, physically healthy, was psychologically dependent on Sabrina, dominated and blindly obedient to her. A former lover of Sabrina, testifying in court, described her as a cunning manipulator, not a madwoman, as she calculated her moves too shrewdly. Another witness stated she always fabricated enemies, but did so rationally, with selfish motives. On June 26, 2018, the court found the couple guilty of torturing, humiliating, and murdering their nanny under aggravating circumstances. They were sentenced to life imprisonment, eligible for parole only after 30 years. Neither admitted guilt, continuously appealing to mitigate their sentences. Sabrina attempted to feign insanity, hoping to move from prison to a hospital, but was unsuccessful. Mark Walton, present at the trial, expressed guilt over his ex-lover's actions, as she committed these atrocities to gain his attention and financial compensation. He offered his deepest condolences to the victims' parents and voluntarily issued a substantial check to support the grief-stricken family who lost their beloved daughter. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to the channel and also don't forget to click the bell. There are many shocking stories ahead.